Welcome back to the Attitude After Results podcast. I'm your host, Tanner Natzke. As always, we are presented by the number one hiring platform in all of sports and entertainment, which is Teamwork Online. If you're watching video, whether that be on Spotify, yes, we do have video on Spotify, or that be on YouTube, obviously you can see we have a guest here with us today. This is a conversation between Jace and I. And you. We want this to be a conversation. We want this to be impactful. Today's going to be a good one. Our second ever guest on the show. Our first one was very impactful when we talked with Hunter on his experience during the World Series. We're here today not to bring the biggest names and the top people in the industry to show face and to sound good. That's not why we're here. We're here to have high-level conversations between individuals who are in the weeds, working their butts off to grow their careers. And this is what you have asked us to do. We don't want to bring the big names to show face. Will we have high-level individuals on this podcast in the future? Yes. Those episodes will be tailored, and those episodes will be important for growing careers. Today, we're diving in exactly what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. We're going to tie back in 6 or 7 different episodes that we've previously had. And so if you hear things that you haven't necessarily heard before, go back and listen to those episodes, because today is going to tie all of that into a real life experience and real life success on the previous episodes that we've talked. So today we're talking about sports with Jace and I, but this is going to fit into everything we do. So before we go any further, we're going to introduce Jace. Jace, tell us about, first of all, where you're from, your background, and then what you currently do right now.
Absolutely. So yeah, Jace Williams, super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Tanner. And yeah, so I'm coming from Iowa, actually a University of Iowa grad, just like Tanner here. Lived all 25 and a half years of my life in Iowa until about 2 months ago, making the jump down here. Got an awesome opportunity, account executive with the Arizona Cardinals. Been 7 weeks in the weeds, as Tanner just said, and I'm loving it so far. So again, thanks for having me. Super happy to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. 7 weeks, guys. He is just in the beginning of his career. And you said 7 weeks in the sports industry. That's not been your entire professional career.
Nope.
Because a lot of people that we have listening are either looking to change career paths and get into the sports industry or other industries, right? Or they're coming directly out of college. And specifically right now, it's the end of January when this releases. People are starting to get into their seniors of college, juniors of college, where they're looking for internships, they're submitting resumes, they're starting their career path. Tell us what you did before jumping into the sports industry.
Absolutely. So right out of college I'm sure you experienced this a little bit as well, was when COVID was really hitting hard. And so I knew I wanted to be in sales. My mom's, very successful in medical sales. She's really been my mentor through it all, and landed a spot with an ADT security authorized dealer, just as a sales representative. And then ultimately over the 3 years I was there, worked my way up to, got the keys to my own office and ran a small team there with 10 reps underneath me. And it was a blast. We've talked a lot about, I learned every single day. It was incredible. However, the only thing I was running into was the passion behind the product that I was selling. I remember our first conversation right there, and I could just see his eyes light up when talking about, I think you had the Travis Scott concert that night at the Footprint Center. And I hadn't really talked to somebody in sales that had been that passionate about the product that they were selling. And that's really what kickstarted my journey to move over into sports. So
I love that. It's interesting you say, one, you had your own office. Mm-hmm. So some individuals coming out of college could be, man, I can't wait to get my own office.
Yeah.
Can't wait to have my own space. I can't wait to be a leader, be a manager, have my own team. From what you just said, you had that, but there was that one thing missing. What led you to find out that you were missing that when having what some college kids would say, or some people around the world, you had a leadership, you had a role, you had a team? Like, what was that thing missing? Like, what was the passion missing?
I really found myself, I'm a very disciplined person. I pride myself on that, but the discipline gets a little bit harder when you're not passionate about what it is that you're selling. And that's what I kept running into. To be completely frank with you, my paychecks they were big, right? I was making great money. I was having an impact on, younger sales reps' lives, right? Getting to really mold them and play a part in their success. And that was all fantastic, but it all came down to the product and the passion behind the product that I was selling. And once I kind of realized that, it was 3 years in when I really came to that realization that, I do truly belong somewhere else. And that's not a knock or a shade on those in those industries, because some people really truly do find a passion in that. And, I was protecting people's homes, right? There was some really good things in that. Just me personally, I found it hard to wake up each and every day and be like, security systems, like let's get after it, and it does come to a halt eventually. And so it was perfectly timed. Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be this good. We are 5 minutes in. I did not know it was going to be this good. You said a couple of things that triggered me. One, we talk about it a decent amount. We have episodes in the future that we're going to dive into in the sports industry specifically. Mm-hmm. The money isn't always going to be incredible, especially starting in. And I don't necessarily want to dive in deep here because we're going to dive in later. But you said, and a lot of people out of college think that money is very important, which in order to live, it is. You were making good money, but still decided that at some point the passion was greater in following. How did you make that decision? Because that's probably a tough one to leave. And some people right now don't want to leave their jobs because of the money, because it's good. They're supporting a family. They're supporting their lifestyle. How tough was that decision, and what steps did you take to get there?
It was very tough, basically conceding and knowing no matter what, if I do go into this industry that I know I'll be passionate about, which was sports at the time, knowing I'm going to be taking a pay cut, right? And getting in that mindset. And we get really comfortable with the money that we're making. We adjust our lifestyles around the money that we make. But I had to just flip that 180. Like, I'll just have to change my lifestyle a little bit. And I'm here 7 weeks in, and I really actually haven't had to change my lifestyle that much. Nice. Right. So moving to a much bigger city, right? What I was told was a much more expensive city. And it's really not that bad. I think the fear of the pay cut is way worse than the pay cut itself. And if you get into the industry and just really get after it, the money side will take care of itself. So
a couple things you just said. It was super comfortable in the position you're in. So it said all of the time that you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I challenged listeners a couple episodes ago to actually be uncomfortable in the comfortable situations. Get to a point where you're sitting on the couch doing nothing and you're like, man, this stinks. You have to get to that position. And it sounds like you have been able to do that early on. Obviously, we're 7 weeks in, but early on, what's been the most uncomfortable thing about the sports industry?
The most uncomfortable thing I would say is being on a sales floor with 35 other studs, right? And it's a good uncomfortable, like you just said, of like, we want to beat each other, right? And that's what creates a healthy culture. But I'd be lying to you if I said, there wasn't those couple of days where you blank in a row where you're going home feeling a little bit uncomfortable, right? But ultimately, if I didn't have that feeling, that would mean I didn't care, right? And so that uncomfortability, especially when you're in a sales industry of any kind, that's what's going to make or break you, right? And that's what I ultimately love about it.
I told you guys we were going to tie in a couple different episodes. We've already talked about how discipline breeds success and how being uncomfortable is important. Let's take a step back before we started in the sports industry. And what we've talked about the last couple of weeks on this podcast that I really want to hone in on is how the process came to be from you made the decision and you talked about the steps that it took to get there. How are you able to, once you're like, hey, I need to find something I'm passionate about, actually form conversations and relationships with individuals in the sports industry? So walk us through that process of starting. Like, who'd you reach out to? How did you reach out to teams? Because people out there right now are locked on. There's so many teams, so many opportunities, so many businesses to get into. I don't know. And it's kind of like information overload.
Yeah.
How did you simplify it, narrow it down, and choose the Cardinals?
Yeah. So my situation was a little bit unique in that sense of, timing is big, right? And the Cardinals launched the big hiring event and stuff like that. But just like you said, I think 1,100 applicants, right, is what applied for that hiring event. I could have just applied, right, sent my resume in, and hey, let's hope for the best. But that's ultimately not how you separate yourself. So what I did is, I was very fortunate enough to have some people in the sporting industry that kind of helped talk to them, and that ultimately led my way to you. Obviously, you gave me great pointers there, and one of the best pointers that Tanner gave me before I think I had even submitted my resume was reach out on LinkedIn to people in the Cardinals. And that I truly believe is what separated myself a little bit. Is I got in touch with a hiring manager there, was a little bit of a Hail Mary. He responds the next day and we hop on a call, 20 minutes. Matt Shopper, shout out. He's been great this entire time. I think at the very least, that's someone in the Cardinals hearing my name for a second time on top of the resume. But then on the flip side, right, I'm getting really valuable information from somebody who's been in the industry. I think he's going on his 15th season. That's priceless information right there. That's priceless to go and use. Then when I did get selected for the hiring event, right, I'm already one leg up because I was doing things like that prior to even submitting my resume.
So you talked about the hiring event. Mm-hmm. Some individuals listening might not know about hiring events or know that they exist.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Being a part of one, myself and you, I went to one in Cleveland, which shout out Teamwork Online. The Cleveland Sports Jobs Fair is coming up like in a week or two from when this thing releases. You need to get on that. That's very important. Being in hiring events in the past and going into one, not ever doing one before, walk us through in detail what that process was like. Give us the emotions, I won't even say what emotions I think you're feeling. Just give us those emotions.
It was crazy. So it was a multi-step process. The first was obviously just the application, right? Submitting the resume, and then they took, I think, 6 or 7 of the 100 of the 1,100 applicants, and then it was a one-way video interview, right? So you're on camera, it goes 3, 2, 1, and then a question pops up, and you have a minute and a half to answer it, right? So that was, pretty weird, I would say. You're talking to yourself on a computer, right? We're in sales. We thrive on talking to another individual, not to a computer, right? So that was tough in and of itself, but it all comes down to preparation, right? I did my research. I probably put in, back-to-back days of, 8 hours at the library, just looking up, different people's testimonials on their one-way interviews in sports, and common questions that are going to be on a one-way interview. And then after that was they filtered through 600-700 of those videos and brought, I believe it was 118, I want to say, out to Tempe for the actual hiring event. Groups of 12 to 15 in each different room, and leadership bouncing around, and you get about a minute to answer a question, and that's it, right?
So, all right, everybody listening, he went through it quick. 1,100 people applied. Mm-hmm. So 1,100 people clicked the button that said apply and did their resume.
Yep.
600 or 700 did a video interview?
Something like that, yeah.
So without even probably looking at resumes, I don't want to speak for them, but they chose 600 or 700 people. So roughly half.
Yep.
To do a one-way video interview. And then you answer to a computer screen.
3 questions.
You answer 3 questions to a computer screen.
Yep.
And they dwindle it from 1,100 down to 118. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are listening to this right now and you submit it online, you talk to 0 people, and 90% of the people don't have an opportunity ever to talk or see anything. If you did this the traditional way, you write words on a piece of paper and you speak to a computer and hope that you're getting a job.
Yeah.
And people out here right now are like, I don't understand why I'm not getting any jobs.
Yeah.
I don't understand why I never get a call back. It's like, because you put words on a piece of paper and talk to a computer and hope that something good happened. But like you said previously, you had processes in place way before then.
Yeah.
And also the process that you had in place before then, you went on top of that and you prepared for the role that you wanted, which, again, if you haven't listened to that episode, do it. You prepare for the role that you wanted before the opportunity came about. So I want to get back. I want to close the loop on the hiring process once you get there. But first, we're going to take a break. Preparing for the role that you wanted. You'd said 8 hours of preparation, but you were preparing way before that interview. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So for those people who are listening that are maybe in a position that I was in, or even in college, right? You're not in the sports industry yet. Every single day is preparation for that next step, right? Every single day is preparation for your resume, right? One sale, that's it's not getting put on the resume, but that's adding to it, right? Building connections, right? And if you don't currently have a job, you're in college, right? How hard are you going in class, right? How hard are you going with your daily activities, right? Are you up in the morning? Are you hitting the gym? Are you reading, right? All of this is going to be preparation for when you ultimately do have that switch or you get your first opportunity in sports. And that's something I pride myself on every day. We talked about discipline just a little bit earlier. I knew probably a year and a half, 2 years into my 3 years in my prior sales job that this isn't what I'm passionate about and this isn't what I'm going to be in for the rest of my life. But that didn't mean that my discipline wavered. That didn't mean that I stopped trying as hard as I did, because I ultimately knew that however much success that I have here, however much growth that I have, is only going to help me that much more when we do get to the hiring event and things like that. So
it's incredible. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. Because you were preparing for the role that you wanted 3 years prior to an opportunity. And some may say, and you said earlier, that you happen to be moving to Phoenix and the Cardinals happen to be hiring at the same time.
Yep.
Dumb luck, maybe. But there's 1,100 people that applied. Not dumb luck that you got hired.
Yeah.
Right? And so 3 years prior, you were preparing for a dumb luck situation. Some people are like, oh, I'm not lucky like that. Like, I can't. Oh, that never happens to me. Like, that's awesome, Jace. You had that opportunity, and it just happened to make sense. No, it didn't just happen to make sense. You were 3 years prior, every single day, every single sale, every single person that you were training was leading you to this opportunity. Yeah. And when the opportunity came, you capitalized. We're going to talk about capitalization now. 118 people make it to this hiring event. What happens next?
Man, I am not even going to lie a little bit. The hiring event I was surrounded by studs, right? And so if I would be lying to the listeners if I didn't leave that hiring event a little nervous, right? But again, being surrounded by studs, what do us high level salespeople do is we rise to the occasion. Right. And so I had to listen to, 4, 5, 6 people give their answer on a question before I went. Right. And so I'm like, okay, I know what I have to do here, but it still boils down to the preparation of that. Right. Any hiring event, any panel interview, any just one-on-one interview that you're going to have, you can go in pretty prepared at what questions you're going to be asked. Right. We all get taught the STAR method questions that are asked in the interviews. One thing that I always, tell people that I've, helped through interview processes is there really shouldn't be a question that is asked that you are not prepared for, right? And that is just as simple as hopping on Google, right? Hopping on YouTube, hopping on LinkedIn, right? Talking to people, and you won't be that person that is fumbling their words and getting stumped on a question if you know that likely that type of question is going to be asked. And what it also comes down to is not only knowing that these type of questions are going to be asked, but know your answers. Have them prepared, have them written down, practice them in the mirror, right? These things are going to, it's just like our pitch, when you learn a new pitch, when you learn a new selling system, right? If you're not out practicing, and preparing, you're not going to be as successful as the people next to you.
We're going to be doing an episode on interviews, I think next week or the week after. So this is an incredible plug for next week's episode. And that's not where I thought this was going today, but it's so important because understanding why somebody is asking the question. The question at face value means nothing. But if you can understand why and prepare for the types of questions, there should never be one that you don't have an answer for, exactly like you said. I know one that I got a lot, just like that people at this combine that I was at got, was like, if you were a hamburger, like what product would you be? And at face value, that question means nothing.
Zero.
There's no value to that question. But the answer, they don't actually care if you choose pickles, mustard, ketchup, bun, meat, doesn't matter.
No.
None of that matters. It's the reason of why you're choosing that, right? If somebody asks you that question, you say, I'm the meat because I'm the hardest working person here, and you can pound me down as much as you want, but I'll still come out flavorful. Like, if like off the cusp, if you can have an answer like that, where you're like, hey, I'm actually the bun because the team runs through me and I keep everybody together, and teamwork is my biggest thing. Those are the answers that people are. I just got chills saying that because I just came up with that off the cusp, and that was honestly pretty good. But it's if you can prepare for why someone is asking, and you can articulate in a way that is beneficial, that is really what it boils down to. Not all emotions are good at these combines. No. And I've gone through some roller coasters on it. Yeah. And you said you came out with some iffy thoughts. Give us the best and the worst feeling at the combine and after.
The best was in the moment being there, right? I think having the opportunity was incredible. Getting to be at an NFL's training facility, interviewing to work for an NFL team. But like you said, I think it was on your last episode, there's no participation trophies here, right? There is zero. And so that, I think you could construe as the worst part, but also again, could flip it as the best part. Like, we're not here to take part, what Conor McGregor said, we're here to take over. Right.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing that I was trying to stay level headed during the process about was, we're here for these day 2 interviews, right? This is a step 2 tomorrow, because how they set it up was the group interviews on Sunday, and then Monday were the one-on-one interviews with the leaders. Right. And so it was all about just get me to day 2, right? Do everything that I have to do today to get me to tomorrow. But again, doing everything today, that started weeks in advance, right? It wasn't, all right, it's Sunday, it's group interview time, let's get after it. No, it was, hey, let's get after this 3 weeks in advance. Once I did officially leave my last job to prepare for this, that's truly when the preparation started. So I do feel I went in as nervous as I was. I do think I was less nervous than a lot of people there because of my preparation, and I had that to lean on.
And you talked about breaking the goal down. The goal is to get to day 2. Mm-hmm. But you can't get to day 2 if you don't get through day 1.
Yep.
And you're not going to get through day 1 if you don't prepare 3 weeks in advance. So a month or 2 in advance, you see this massive opportunity that, hey, I need to get to day 2 at the Cardinals facility. Yep. But it's not getting to day 2 at the Cardinals facility a month prior. It's reaching out to the individual. Mm-hmm. It's then writing a very clean resume. Yeah. It's then talking with other individuals, preparing. Now it's getting through the first half a day and making an impact. Now it's getting to day 2. Now day 2, it's like, okay, now it's getting a job where you were able to take this massive goal a month out and shrink it down to small bite-sized pieces and capitalize on that opportunity. Walk us through. I have a question, and I don't know how we're going to take it, but I'm going to ask it anyways. If there was no, I might shoot myself in the foot here. If there was no resume and there was no video interview, would you have been invited to the combine? Given what you have prepared for and given what you had done previously to the actual combine?
If there was no resume and no video interview, I do believe that I would have been invited. Is that the answer you were hoping for?
I think it wasn't my answer. If it was the opposite, I might have had to shut the podcast down, but it's okay. That's kind of what I thought you were going to say, given our conversation so far. Why is that the case?
It's because I take every single day of my professional career seriously. I think if you are in any sales industry, right? And I speak to a lot of people who are, hopefully on this call that are thinking about the sports industry, right? Maybe aren't in it quite yet, or the people who are, right? If there is really any day goes that is going by without discipline and maximum effort, I really think that you are setting yourself back, right? Because I promise you, there are people out there that take every single day seriously. And I truly think that if they just brought 1,100 people to the training facility, I do think that I would have been able to find a way to stand out based off of just how I approach every single day. And I think that really started late college, is when I really started taking my, which is late. I know you started really caring about your career much earlier than I did. And I do think that set me back a little bit, but you can't go backwards, right? So, you had to fix it right there. And again, just taking every single day seriously, I think is what would set me apart.
I might go climb a mountain with Hunter right now. I'm fired up right now. This is awesome. All right, now that we've gotten to the Cardinals facility, you've gotten through the interview, you've gotten through the one-on-ones. There are people right now in college that are going to go through the one-on-one interview. Mm-hmm. They're going to get all the way there, and they're going to sit in limbo for who knows how long. What did you do during that time? Was the offer given to you right there? After the one-on-one, you make it through everything. Now what?
So I think the offer came 4 or 5 days after. I'll be completely straightforward. I did go play a little bit of golf, right? I did enjoy myself a little bit, but I didn't stop preparing for the next opportunity, right? I was still on LinkedIn. I was still searching for different opportunities, but that the hiring event in and of itself showed me this is where I belong. If I don't get this Cardinals position, which I really, really, really wanted, I knew that I was going to be applying to other sports teams, right? Other, other leagues, whatever it may be, because just being in that environment I think the hiring event was, 4 or 5 hours, and they took us through the game after, and then an hour-long interview the next day. So we'll call it like 8 hours, whatever. That's all it took for me to know this is where I'm going to be most passionate.
That is an invigorating experience, because I went through it in Cleveland. So we went to ours, Teamwork Online is having one coming up here in Cleveland. Same thing. That's where I got my start. It's the same type of event, but there are teams from all over the country there that are there to hire. Yeah. So you could, you're not going up. You had 118 people going for
30 positions.
Yeah. We have 40 people that could be vying for 40 positions because they're all throughout. So I would believe, and Hunter had the exact same thing with the Diamondbacks, I believe that what you guys went through was more intense and a more difficult process. But when you're there is something about that energy and that atmosphere that is, to a competitor, to somebody who's been in sports before, especially if you enjoy sales, there's something about that environment that you're like, I want to do it again.
Yep.
Something like that was so scary and so worrisome, and I had so much anxiety. It's like, give me there again. Let's go again. So it's awesome to hear that you're like, yo, if I went, Cardinals where you want to be, where you ended up. But it's like, I was going to be in that. I was going to put myself in that position again.
Yeah, absolutely. And, honestly, big credit to the leaders at the Cardinals too, because just the energy that they put on, how much they showed that they were bought into the culture of the Cardinals, I think played a role in that. But I would imagine, I haven't worked for another team, I'd imagine other teams have that same sort of passion. And it was, I don't think I was there, but 25 minutes before I was like, yeah, this is the spot. This is where I belong. So.
And at the end, you get to enjoy a Cardinals game. So you get to have some fun, right? Yeah. Tell us about the best part about working in sports so far. And again, 7 weeks in, very young career, very motivated, but you've gone through this entire process. Yeah. And I've seen people that have gone through the entire process, get into the sports industry, and boom, 5 months in, 6 months in, they're like, this stinks, I'm out. I don't have what it takes. How are you able to or what's been the best part so far where you're like, this is exactly where I need to be?
I think it's funny, just back to my point earlier about how being surrounded by so many studs was like kind of terrifying and almost like one of the worst parts about the hiring event. It's the best part of being in this industry. Like, being surrounded by the studs that I am and just how high level these people are on the phones and just their, of building a culture is head and shoulders the best thing, because I can't even take an hour off of my day without, making sure I'm doing what I need to be doing on my, my touch point process, making my calls, right? I have that meeting coming up, because if I do that, someone's going to pass me. Right. And I want everyone on that sales floor to succeed, but I want to be up there at the top. And I think every single person that the Cardinals brought on feels the exact same way. And that's why the culture is so healthy, that we're building such a winning culture just right off. We've been on the phone since December 16th. Yeah. Right. And we're already, I'm pretty sure, breaking records in terms of this early deposit season that we're on. And so head and shoulders, the culture has been the best part, and how, you got to get going or you're going to get passed.
I love it. All right. You have come from a different industry. Mm-hmm. You have basically in the minds, which is crazy to sit here and think there's three of us, obviously hunters, the reason we're doing this and the brains behind everything we do here. So the three of us have sat here. We still have hunger and we still have areas that we want to go. But to ourselves 3 years ago, we've made it. Right? Yeah. Like to ourselves 3 years ago, if we sat and be like, if you're in this position, like you work for a professional sports team, there's a ton of college individuals and people that were in your shoes who started career paths where they're looking at us. And they're like, man, like you guys have made it. Mm-hmm. Has it been worth it so far?
Absolutely. It's been worth it. But to that point, I don't feel like I've made it at all. I probably did for the day or two after I got my offer. I was actually on the golf course when my director called me, and right as I hung up that phone, I think I did a Gronk spike with my phone, and played one more hole, quad bogey, and I went home. It's like I couldn't play anymore, right? So, I think for a second, especially those first couple of days of orientation, you're like, I'm here, right? But then you get on the phones, then you start competing, and you see how much advancement you've experienced in the sports industry. There's never a time to get complacent. And that's another thing that I love about it, is how much you can advance and how quickly you can do it if you are on your stuff each and every day.
In order to be on your stuff, I would assume that you need some sort of, we talked about it earlier, but discipline and also some sort of routine. What routine have you found yourself? Because sports is not the 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. What routine have you found successful so far?
Yeah, so the Cardinals are amazing. We get some awesome perks, and that includes a gym membership, or a very discounted gym membership, and that type of stuff you got to take advantage of, right? Being disciplined in your personal life is only going to make your professional life that much easier. So I know it's not for everybody, but going to the gym, or even get out and go for a walk, go for a jog in the mornings, or after work, if that's your style. I like to have my evenings more free, and so I like to do my stuff in the mornings, but making sure at least 3 to 4 times a week I am doing something with my body that isn't sitting at a desk or sitting on my couch, right? That right there is going to then lead into, well, now I need to eat a little bit healthier to get more benefit from that. Okay, now I'm eating healthier, I'm working out every day. Now I'm more energized at work, and then you're disciplined at work as is. We're sales professionals. That's what we do. It all gets a little bit easier when you start focusing on your outside of work. So
I think people think this is scripted. I honestly do. And I promise you it's not. We have an agenda here, and we have a bunch of things in front of us, and I have not looked at it once because of the conversations that it's been flowing. But you're obviously pouring into exactly what we are eliciting to others and to help others. And the reason that we're here, the reason that you're here today, is because you want to help others, and you've been a success story in the sports industry so far, and you're just beginning. Like, we're going to run a team together someday. I feel like.
Hope so.
What advice do you have? We'll wrap it up here pretty quickly. What advice do you have for people who are in your spot where you were making really good money, right? You were leading a team, and you decided to change a completely different career path. Or in the same realm, college individuals who are right now, end of January, getting ready to start jobs, juniors, sophomores, getting ready to start internships. What advice do you have for them right now so when May, June, July hits, they can be successful?
I think it's just to play off everything that we've talked about. It's prepare. That's it, right? Prepare starting today. I don't care if you're a sophomore in college. That's one regret that I have is, University of Iowa, great place, right? But you can fall into the trap of, hey, I'm here to have fun and not actually here to promote my professional growth when I am. Because college,
and we both had fun.
We did have fun. We did have fun, but prepare, right? And this comes in so many different ways. If I told you going to the gym every single day is actually somehow preparing you for success in the professional world, it doesn't sound like it's correlated, but I promise you having any sort of discipline in your day is going to get you there. 2, on a more, specific note, to build off of the resume thing, I think our episode amazing episode, by the way, but have multiple resumes or have a versatile resume, right? The job posting that you're applying for literally tells you in it what you should be what they're looking for, right? So a big trouble I had when I was first applying for jobs, I was submitting the same resume for 20 different companies. And that is just, you might catch 1 or 2, but as somebody who has read a lot of resumes, conducted interviews, I mean, your resume has 20, 30 seconds to wow. That's really a lot of times, especially when they're filtering through 1,100, they aren't reading your resume for 15 minutes, Googling your company, seeing what they aren't doing all of that. So have multiple resumes, those words that are on the job posting, use them, right? That's what they're looking for. And then 2, prepare and practice interviewing. I can't hammer that enough, right? Find a list of 10 very common interview questions, sit on the couch with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever it may be, and have them ask you it, right? Have them ask you those questions so that you can prepare it in the mirror. And then lastly, I'll wrap it up with just live a disciplined life. It's going to lead to more happiness. It's going to lead to more success, and quicker success at that.
Love it. I heard 2 things that are not my quotes, but they are, life is either going to be hard now and easy later, or easy now and hard later.
Yep.
Why would you want your life to be hard later? Yep. Right? Take the discipline steps, the things that are not very fun to do, right? It's not necessarily fun to go to the gym 4 times a week. It's not necessarily fun to eat healthy all the time. Yeah. But your life's going to be a little bit easier later on because it's hard now. Yeah. And the second one is every action that you have is a vote for who you want to be in the future. Like you said, you're making 1 small sale. It's not on your resume. You're getting 1 A on an exam or 1 B on an exam. That's a vote for who you want to be. That's a step in the right direction. Yeah. You're making 1 connection, whether that be in college or sophomore year. There's some connections I'm sure that we've made early on that we never thought were going to amount to anything. Like right now, one of the professors at Iowa is one of my, I wouldn't say best friends, but we are very connected. Bounce ideas off each other all of the time. Yeah. Where I was a sophomore in college, but it was making the connection. Now it's helping both of us in the future. So every single vote or every action that you have is a vote for who you want to be in the future. God, dude. Oh, this is awesome. I didn't know it was going to be this good. All right. I want to thank you first and foremost. Yeah. I appreciate you. Thanks, Hunter, again, for obviously doing what he has and helping us prepare today. This was absolutely incredible.
Appreciate
this
that.
Is where everybody should be listening. I did not know it was going to be this good. We will definitely have you back on.
Have more faith in me, man. Come on, man.
honestly. When we get in roles and as we continue to come up the ladder, you're coming on again. No questions asked.
Cool.
I appreciate you guys.
I appreciate y'all.
This is something everybody listening or watching, you obviously will be sharing this. I don't think I have to ask that. This is something especially for everybody that's getting into internships, getting into jobs, coming up here at the end of college. Like, dude, if you don't share this, like you're actually doing somebody a disservice. Yeah. I'm going to be sharing this with people, which might be weird, but I'm going to be throwing it to everybody I know in college. So I appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. You bet. As always, continue to inspire others, and let's continue growing together.